Hello, everyone. I'm here for lesson 3, and today we are going to be starting with Susan B. Anthony. So, our first two books that we've done this week so far, Amelia Earhart and Wilma Rudolph, have been about these really, really important people in history who've made a lot of contributions, done a lot to help change the world and change history. If you've noticed, all 3 books so far have been about women. Really, one of the big goals I have for this unit is to help introduce you to some people that maybe you've heard of, maybe you don't really know, you've heard of, but maybe you don't know a lot about them. Maybe you do know a lot about them, which is great just to continue learning, or maybe you've never heard of them at all. But I want to try to show you some people, really, really important people, that not everyone really knows a lot about. So this is by Donna Herwick. Susan B. Anthony rejected the idea that women were not equal to men and fought for women's rights and women's suffrage. So made a lot of contributions to our world by things that she did, especially for the United States. Now I'm going to go to our goal that we're going to be kind of focusing on. Now remember, for this biography unit, we always have 2 goals, a reading goal and a social studies goal. So we're going to read our reading goal at I can determine. Ready? I can determine the main idea of a text and key details for support. Remember that determine means to figure out. And we're not going to be doing a big main idea. It's always good to keep the main idea at the back of your head. What we're going to be really focusing on are the key details, the most important facts. And while we're doing that, I should say we're going to use that then to do our social studies goal. Read it at I can explain. I can explain how specific people have done important actions to help change the world around them in history. So specific means like a certain person, like Susan B. Anthony. And we're going to talk about what important things or actions they have done to change the world about them in our history, our past events. Now, as we are reading about Susan B. Anthony, that's actually just going to be one part of it, because we are going to be doing this. Now, you've already opened this up. Our lesson today is Biography Lesson 3, Discovering Many Different Important Historical People. Remember, my screen always looks totally different than yours just because I have all the lessons waiting to send to you. But so that's all you saw was this. My screen also looks different because you have a step 1. I don't, because step 1 is to open this video and watch it. And I'm making it right now. So you've already opened the video. Now we're going to go to step 2. Open discovering many important historical people and notability. So I'm going to do that. Top right corner, I'm going to hit my action button, rectangle with an arrow. Send this off to notability. In notability, I always do create new note. In top right corner, hit import. Make sure I'm not going to lose my book here. Great. Going to write my name here. Always write your name. That way when I'm looking through everything, I know whose is whose, and I know it's yours then. Okay, so you're just going to watch me just kind of explain how this is going to work, and then you're going to be doing this graphic organizer after. Now, while I'm on this book, I'm going to explain your assignment today. Basically, you are going to be discovering 4 different important people today. That's going to be the first part of your assignment. You're going to be doing some reading, learning about 4 different people. After you do that, then you're going to do a Kids A to Z book and quiz. Your sheet is not going to be for your Kids A to Z book today, and you're going to see the book I assigned you actually is not a biography. It's just a nonfiction book. So you're going to read that Kids A to Z book. You'll do the quiz. But the rest of this, though, is you're going to be getting to choose 4 people, completely choice of you. And I'm going to be showing you 4 different people to kind of explain how this is going to work. But going back to this first box is going to be, my first person is Susan B. Anthony. So I'm going to write down Susan B. Anthony. Then down below it says 2 to 3 key details that will help me remember this person are. So just key details, and only 2 to 3. So the most important things I learn about her, the things that everyone should know about Susan B. Anthony. And I'm actually going to do that 4 times today. I'm going to be choosing 4 different people for this whole graphic organizer. But I can only write 2 or 3 important things for that person. So remember, you can always go find somebody on Kids A to Z for this, but I'm going to show you lots of different choices today. Go back to my book so I don't lose it. Awesome. So, but I'm just going to start with Susan B. Anthony, and then we'll kind of explain the rest of the sheet here. Okay, so I'm going to get going in this. I'm not going to read all of the book, but I'm going to just read a couple highlight things about her. So, created equal. Long ago on a hillside in Massachusetts, light flickered from the windows of a cozy farmhouse. Inside the house, 8 children gathered near the family fire. They were listening to their father and mother. Always remember, their father said, all people are created equal. Everyone deserves a chance to work, own a home, and earn a living, their mother added. And every adult should be allowed to vote, their father finally said. One of those children sitting there took those words into her heart. As she grew, she decided to do everything she could so that all people were treated fairly. Her name was Susan B. Anthony. Early life. Susie Brownwell Anthony was born on February 15, 1820, in the town of Adams, Massachusetts. Her father, Daniel, owned a cotton mill. Her mother, Lucy Reed, cooked, cleaned, and did laundry for the family business. The Anthonys were Quakers. They led a very simple life. Their home had no decorations, games, or musical instruments. They did not want anything to keep them from thinking about God and what God wanted them to do. Now, I'm not gonna be reading everything. Like you're gonna see, there's a lot of captions and little sidebars and fast facts. I'm not gonna read all of this stuff just because I have a lot of stuff to show you today. But when you're doing your own reading, you should always read that stuff. You can get so much information from that. And if you want to come back and read this book again later, then you definitely could, because it's an epic book. Now, so far, I definitely want to keep reading. This seems like some interesting details, but I'm thinking these are not the things why people remember her. Quakers believe in hard work. Susan and the other children had many chores to do. They worked at home as soon as they were old enough to walk and follow the directions. Just one of Susan's chores was making 21 loaves of bread each day. Education was important to the Anthonys too. When Susan was 4, she and 2 of her sisters visited their grandfather for 6 weeks. In that time, their grandfather taught them to read. Susan's eyes had a hard time reading for those long hours. The strain seemed to hurt her left eye, and she had problems with it all her life. Later, Susan went to a Quaker boarding school in Philadelphia to finish her education. And a boarding school is a school where you live. So it's not like Oak Point where you go to school and you go back home. Boarding schools, we actually live there while you're going to school. Going to work. As soon as Susan finished school, she went right to work. She became a New York teacher in 1839. In those days, very few women worked outside their homes. While Susan was there, she earned just 1/5 of the pay a man made in the same job. She knew this was not fair, and she said so. So just as an example, I'm just going to say $5. So let's say me, Mr. Johnson, for teaching for one day, I get $5. But Ms. Kevitt, next to us, she's a woman, she would only get $1. Totally not fair. And she said that. Susan also had friends who were African Americans. At that time, many people thought it was wrong for people of different races to be friends. Because Susan complained about her and her African American friends, she lost her job. So to me, that seems like a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big key detail. I'm going to write that one down. She lost her first teaching job because she said women and people who were African American were not being treated fairly. So she was already standing up. That was pretty big. Standing up for what she thought was wrong and right. That's a pretty big deal. Okay. Later, Susan got a better job at another school in New York. People here thought she was a good teacher. Most women of Susan's age were getting married and raising families. Susan said that she would never marry unless she was given all the rights of any citizen. She wanted fair treatment. She wanted the same pay that men got for the same job, and she wanted to vote. Temperance. After 10 years, Susan stopped teaching. She wanted to do something about the problem of alcohol. She remembered women working at her father's mill who talked about alcohol in their homes. Their husbands would drink and then hurt them and their children. So Susan decided to work for temperance. Temperance meaning is lowering the use of something such as alcohol to a very small amount. So I mean, she really wanted everyone to have good, safe lives. I'm going to keep on going here to here. So basically, this really, like these next few pages really talks about she's meeting people who are thinking like her, working really hard to try to earn the right to vote, and that's really what suffrage is the right to vote. And then finally, here in success. Susan would not be quiet. In 1872, although it was illegal for women to vote, she voted anyway. She was arrested and went to court. In court, she was not allowed to say anything. She was found guilty and charged a fine, but she would not pay it. The court finally gave up. When Susan died on March 13th, 1906, women in 4 states had finally won the right to vote, but not in Susan's state. That changed 14 years later, though, when the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, remember an amendment is a change to the Constitution, gave all women the right to vote. Many people called it the Anthony Amendment. They believed that her hard, brave work made the difference. So I'm going to say, by the time she died in 1906, 4 states won the right to, women in 4 states won the right to vote. 14 years later, all women could. Okay, so it's like two really good key details. So I'm going to stop right there, though, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how we're going to do the rest of this sheet.